What's happening, everybody? Last video we left off where I was showing you how I set this system up to start on these steel trusses. Since the last video, I've gotten the first truss tacked in, meaning that I placed my first welds on it. But in this video here, I wanted to show you the process that I had to go through in order to get this to work. What I'm doing here is I'm making my stands. My stands that I talked about in the last video, if you haven't seen it, that basically what they do is every 5 feet or so I would place these stands, and these stands will keep the metal from sagging, because a 20-foot piece of steel, like a piece of angle iron, even though it's thick and it's huge, it still will sag quite a bit. So I have to be able to clamp it and tack weld it to these stands in order to keep it in place. So what I'm showing you here is the process I came up with. What I'm doing is using carriage bolts, 1/4 inch carriage bolts, and I am basically tacking the nut inside these holes here so I can use these carriage bolts as like feet so I can level, because the key part of this to make this work is that these stands have to be level. Only on one plane. It doesn't matter if they're sideways if you're facing them, but in order to keep the truss straight, they have to be straight up and down, and that's why I'm doing all this work for this. What I'm doing here is I'm taking 2 pieces of angle iron and combining them to make square tubing. I don't know if you knew you could do this, but it's pretty easy to do, really. 1/4 inch thick angle iron here, and now I have 1/4 inch thick square tubing. So this is really stout, really strong, because also these poles have to be strong enough to hold this truss into place, because it is a pretty heavy truss. So that's what I'm doing here. So yes, there's a lot to this, but just so you know, after I get done with all this, I won't have to do this anymore for the rest of the trusses. So the next 5 trusses that I'm doing, these are already going to be done, and I won't have to do this process again. I am saving over $11,000 by doing it this way, as opposed to just buying the trusses and having them delivered. Actually, more than that when you look into the renting equipment part of it. But anyway, so I'm going to stop talking here. There's lots of welding left over, but you can just see the process and what I'm doing. And thanks for following. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. I will talk to you soon.